This is part 2 of the follow rest build. But if you read the title, I suppose you already know this. In part 1 I made this thing and I had to stop working because I don't have the M3 tab anymore because it broke, and I ordered a new one and it's still not arrived yet. And of course this thing comes right here. But while waiting for a tab to arrive, of course I can continue working on this thing. On this side there will be 2 fingers, one here and one here. And I think, I have exactly the material to make them. This is a 20mm flat bar, 20 or 8 or something. And this will be the fingers. And to keep them straight on my fallen down plate here, I will make 2 little sliding things, U-shapes, cut out a piece of this plate here and then make a groove in it, and then this can slide in here. Let's go for it. Four parts in one go. Now this looks like 2 parts, but I'm gonna make them as one each and then cut them in 2, of course. Long and small parts like these 2 here is of course an ideal job for the shaper. Okay, let's do this. To cut the groove here, my tool, first I will rough it out with my pointy tool bit here, and after I will finish it with my grooving tool. So now 2mm deep, 18mm wide. My 2 sliding parts fit together very well, and of course they will be mounted right here and here. And this is a bit the idea. So all that's left to do is to make a slot in the top part and drill holes, mounting holes in the bottom part. And this is more or less the idea. Of course, these two little bolts, normally I will use them to hold the sliders in place. But for the moment they hold the sliding things in place because the M3 tab I'm waiting for isn't arrived yet. It feels a bit as waiting for the train that never comes, you see. But I think to hold them in place I have another solution. Steel wire. Man, that's a primitive tool. I did something a little bit stupid. When I milled out these little slots here, of course I didn't check the fit. And now the bolt doesn't slide in. So indeed it's a little bit stupid. Of course I could widen it up a little bit with a file, but file, milling machine. Total reach 30 millimeters to 0 millimeters. That's not much. Now, normally I don't paint my finished projects because I like the rough look of it. I like this industrial look. For example, like this belt sander or the arbor press. I think it looks good. And of course also because when I reuse the materials I don't have to strip off the paint. But on this thing I don't like this reddish color here. So I think this time and here's the thing in all its glory. And I think making the reinforcement in the back here is a little bit useless because it feels nice and solid. And I suppose now you would like to see it in action. Trust me, not as much as I do. Let's do. The maximum reach between centers for This machine is 500 millimeters. The part I have in here now is 550, and that's why there's about 50 or 60 millimeters stick out here on the tailstock. Maybe I can bring it in about 20 millimeters if I cut the dead center here a little bit shorter. This rim here, if I take it off, the point will be about 20 millimeters further that way. That's all I can win. But I will give it a try anyway. First pass, I will just clean off this rust layer here, so I will not use the steady rest, and from the moment it's more or less clean, I will install the steady rest, install the fingers and see if it works. Let's go for it. I just finished roughing out this bar here a bit, and there's still some pitting left here, but what to do, it's just a rough cut. I will make, of course, this lead screw another day. This is just a test. And we can clearly see chatter marks. Now I suppose on camera you can see, but I can see chatter marks. So now I'm gonna use the follow rest. I will put these fingers down, give it some oil, and use the same cutting speed, the same cutting tool, the same coolant, the same everything, only the follow rest will be engaged. Let's see what happens. I think this is a perfect example of a failure, because the surface finish here in the beginning is okay-ish, but of course it's a roughing cut and there are still this little bit this pitting in here, so it's acceptable. And the further we go, the worse it's got. Now these lines here, this is where the feed mechanism stopped working, because when I'm roughing out, the clutch disengages sometimes, so I have to fix this. And then I started wondering, how is it possible that the beginning is good and the rest is not good? So I took the fingers off, and here's the result. These things are completely worn. So I think it would be better if I install a little piece of brass here, because steel on steel is not a good idea. Oops. I'm all set up for test number, the next one. Same feeds and speeds, same workpiece, same cutter, same weather, only the t-shirt is different. But that's not important. Let's see what happens. What? Don't you change t-shirts sometimes? I think we're getting somewhere. No chatter marks at all, and the finish is nice and consistent, and when we check the little fingers, the brass pieces, you can hardly see any wear on it. You can see it, but it's almost nothing. So in my opinion, we can call this success.